Podcast. Welcome to this episode of the Trader Thief. We are your hosts. My name is Angel Sanchez. With me, I have Mr. David Bravo
Here.
and then Mr. Jacques Delogere.
What's up, everyone?
On today's episode, we would like to discuss a film that we watched over this past week that David presented to the group. David, would you like to present the film?
The film is called Food Inc. It's the film that I think a lot of people watched because I think it's one of the first films of that. I mean, it's a documentary, but kind of like the genre surrounding food and, where we get the food from, and just like basically the documentary surrounding health and wellness. Because after that you had, or before that, I don't know which one came first. Was it Food Inc. or Super Size Me? I don't know which one came out first.
I think Super Size Me did, right?
Yeah. So then these two are kind of like the first ones that came out in terms of this whole thing. Then you have like the Game Changers. Then you have like other documentaries that have to do with, I guess, food and nutrition and fads and fad diets and things like that. So, in my opinion, this film really opens. It opened my eyes to how you get the food. What are some of the common, I think, threats in a way when it comes to getting decent food, like where it's coming from, or what are some of the things that are affecting the nutritional habits and the health and the lifestyle of people, in the United States, because, we know that in Europe, there are a couple of things that are banned in Europe are not banned here in the United States when it comes to putting it into food. So I just thought the film really opened eyes. It showed us how, the U.S. is really focused on one type of food source, basically corn syrup, and how that's being used in insane quantities, and how that is kind of dictating how, we farm, how people farm, the distribution of food. And in a way, kind of like the capitalistic mindset when it comes to the United States and how we are, giving out food for people. Yeah.
What was some of the things that you saw? I mean, I think we all kind of saw it when we were younger, and then we're seeing it again now. But I remember seeing this movie. I remember seeing part of it. I don't remember the whole thing, because right now, when I recently saw it, I was, I felt like some of the things I was seeing for the first time. Other things not. But what were some of the things that you thought were kind of like eye-opening? Like, what was one of the, like, I know there was a ton for me, and watching the film, I'm sure a lot of people will check it out and have their eye-opening moments, but what were some for you?
I think just the amount of power that a lot of lobbyists have when it comes to food and how it's advertised, and what we are allowed to tell people and what we're allowed to tell the public. You could always use marketing to make your product more appealing and not really tell everybody what's really in it. Like in the products, a product that comes with a packaging that shows a nice red barn and a cute fucking chicken out on the grass. No, I mean, you have in the movie shows that's not really the case in a lot of these mass producing sites of meat, especially with chickens, and how cramped up they are. There's really no red barn. It's like, it's just
no sunlight either.
Yeah, they're just, they're not the greatest, habits or places where the chickens are.
I mean, I think if they don't let you look inside, that's pretty alarming.
Yeah.
Right. If you have not, it's not to say, I think one of their arguments in why people did not want to let reporters, whoever are making documentaries, are coming to look inside was because then they can set up certain viewpoints or set up certain arguments, right, and frame what they're doing in certain lights, which I think is a valid point. But you're not, it is what it is. There's a lot of them don't have daylight. And I know in the one person that lets you look inside, she says, oh, it's normal to just lose 8 hens and just bury them. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah,
some of the chickens are like made to, like, just
to
like
be fatter,
live in filth. They're giving them all these steroids and antibiotics, and then just the right amount of things that won't kill them immediately, but that will make them like insanely huge. fucked up.
Yeah, and then when you go to the slaughterhouse and then you see a cow being dangled by one leg,
hmm
like what does that make you guys feel as well
Um,
when you see that? You know it's happening, but when you see it, what does it make you feel?
I'm like shit. Like, it's fucked up.
That's like a living thing.
Yeah.
It's a living thing, and I know this is not a plant-based discussion, but I see that and I remember why I make decisions that I make. And I think David, you spoke with this about you. I spoke about this with you the other week, and I said, you know, how does it make you feel? And it's like, does it make you feel differently about eating meat? And do you feel that it does make you more conscious, or you still
I
eat
think
meat,
it
right?
makes me conscious of where I'm getting the food from, the meat from. Honestly, it doesn't really make me be like, well, you know, I'm not gonna eat meat for a while.
So
Yeah.
even we had you over and you're gonna go vegan for about a week, and a week later he comes in stack full of meat in that plate. Remember, Angel?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Vegan for a week by David Bravo.
But at the same time, it's like, you know, everybody should make their own decisions, and the last thing people should
agree.
do is feel guilty about eating and then just not eat as a result.
No, I don't want to make
And then
anyone
you
feel
have another
guilty. I
problem.
just think it's important for us to know what's happening for us to get what we're getting.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah,
not trying to make anyone
definitely.
feel guilty listening or here, but I like my youngest brother, for example, I love him to pieces, but he's, oh, I don't hear about it. I was like, well, I think you should, because it's happening. It's not shame on you. It's like, I think you should understand. Sure. I think you should understand what's going on behind the scenes, you know? That's
But
just
people
how I,
also just have, you know, I mean, I get what you're saying, but people also
if
have the
people
right
had
to
to do
not know,
themselves,
because people don't people
yeah,
don't
but
want to know. They
people
should,
don't want to know, but
but they
that's
don't
kind of
have
fucked up
to.
to me. I think if you, it's like
Unfortunately, I think that
that. Unfortunately, it's a lot of people,
yeah,
but
and you should have it like be like, the first time I saw this movie, I think I saw it in school. So I think that that's important. Like if you provide that as an educational resource, but similarly, like there's a lot of stuff that people don't cover in school that I think that they should, like how to have your own finances and how you should, you know, figure out how to, like, where's your food come from and how to grow your own food and things like that. Like I think that that should be a focus, because then when people become adults, it's like it's up to them whether they want to see that. Like if I want to watch documentaries about, I don't know, child slavery or something like that in another country, that's up to me. But if I don't want to know, then I don't have to look into that. Right? Like I don't have to know about like where my products come from and how it's actually made, and you know, things on blood diamonds. It's not really up to you. But
it's
I
not.
think
But
that
would
it
you?
should be educate, like it should be a part of the
Right.
education, right? Like everybody should know where the stuff is coming from.
Like with fast food, everybody knows that it's bad for you. It's not the greatest thing. You just feel like
Right, but it's also right.
people
and
are
then
gonna eat it because they want to. You know.
Yeah.
because they want to, correct, and they're not necessarily wrong for wanting to either, right? And
No one denies it tastes good, right? Like no
Tastes
one
great.
denies meat
It's
or
not the
fast food
greatest
tastes
thing
bad.
ever, you know?
No one
It's-
denies that. I'm not denying that. I just think I just don't like. So last night on the way back from the game, I heard these guys. They were just like, "Oh man, there's chicken cutlet and this," and they were just a bunch of morons anyway. But that's not the point. But anyway, they were talking smack and food, and in my head, I'm like, I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything. I just think if I've used this example when my dad would go hunting, and he would probably use this example before, and he skinned the animal, everything. I think if more people had to do that, you see less people eating meat. That's all I'm saying.
They're
You
lazy.
know,
dressing them.
What's up?
They're dressing them, right?
Well, just skinning it, like taking it apart,
Taking out the organs. You got
everything.
in the bag, you gotta
Yeah,
separate it,
I think if more people had to do, like more people would. I mean, I've spoken to some people and they said if I really had to, I wouldn't like it. I would. You know, if they were stuck on an island, you know, I wouldn't want to. But if it's me or the animal, I'm gonna live, and I respect that. I understand. I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole. I just think, as you said, Angel, I think it's important that from an educational stance that it's not to make anyone feel guilty, but you understand what the process is, where it comes from, and you shouldn't be forced to. That's just kind of worse.
Just making sure.
I know. I don't
not-
rub any feathers.
Yeah.
What, going around shouting shame, the shame bell?
Shaming David
shame.
for being vegan for a day. Like,
No, I wasn't shaming. I was just making a
just
joke
saying.
because we spoke
I
about
don't
it.
even
and
remember that.
See, you don't even remember it. That's
Give a
how
fuck.
brief it was. No, I know. I'm not shaming anyone. I just think it's good for all to wear. And look, like, no one's perfect. I just think it's good to as long as we have the awareness. It's an environmental thing as well. Like, I was shocked to think that methane was like a leading cause of global warming. That's kind of crazy, isn't it? Like, to me, that's is mad. But
So wait, so I take back, I said earlier about the whole like this being one of the first films now. There are a lot of films that came
Yeah,
out about this shit. There's like Fast Food Nation, Our Daily Bread, We Feed the World. So
our daily
yeah.
bread. Damn, trying to hit home. All goes
Yeah.
back to Jesus. The one thing that I thought was interesting was the Monsanto company situation, where they were like stalking farmers or watching farmers, and then the
Yeah,
people
it's
who
like
were
the
like,
mafia.
yeah, exactly. I thought that was pretty interesting. And then how most people just ended up settling out of court because the bills were just too high. Like they couldn't prove to whoever it was that they did or they didn't do certain things, and it was just like they were bullied into it. That was one thing I was surprised by. And then the other thing I was surprised by is how little these farmers make out of their cuts from being in business with some of these bigger companies like Tyson, Smithfield, and Purdue Farms. I was surprised that they were doing all that stuff for like 13K or 18K a year. And true, like the cost of living was different back when the film was made, so about like 2008, 2009. And then also in some states, it's just the cost of living is just way lower. Like we can't even perceive like how much rent is in some of these places because we don't pay that. But I thought that was really interesting. I thought that these people would be making a lot more money for the amount of kind of like stress that they're put under, and then the amount of potential damage that's done from a living point of view. And then the last part that I thought was interesting was the part about the clone meat situation, because I remember that conversation coming up back in the 2000s, in the mid 2000s, late 2000s, about cloned animals, and if it was ethical to clone animals and then use that meat for food. Because aside from just growing an animal to kill it to eat, cloning an animal to kill it to eat was another situation where that was interesting, but I didn't see it actually go anywhere.
I probably won't eat that. I probably would be like, nah.
But that's what the film had made mention to. They made mention to the fact that they are using clone meats and that it's not their prerogative to actually label them. And then the big homie from the other documentary or the other film was playing both sides of the fence. Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was the one to veto some of those bills after they were all set to become bills.
Yeah.
Veto them. So that was really interesting to see the man who
Yeah.
was on one documentary talking about how veganism made him stronger, better, blah 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 blah, and then on the other spectrum, end of the spectrum, he's out there vetoing laws to help the meat industry.
Yeah, and it's because it's just so much money.
Yeah,
There's so much money, and people using that to leverage all the bills and stuff.
it's just crazy. It's crazy how it works. It makes you want to do something, and then at the same time, it just doesn't. Like I hate it when you watch some of these things. You're just like, how much of an impact do you have, and should you run for office, and should you try to do something? And then you realize that there are people who make way more money, who have a bigger name, who are just going to like shut your shit down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I guess you start by winning the little battles, right? And then you from then on you pick up the bigger ones. But
Yeah,
um,
it's all about choices. I think when it comes down to consumer making those choices, even though it's just one person, it doesn't necessarily matter as much. But like the film made mention to or alluded to, using those, like if you're going to eat meat, shop at local farms, support local people at like your food markets and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that we have them in the city, which is really good. And eating foods that are in season, as opposed to stuff that's like eating mangoes in like the dead of winter.
Do you remember Sean, our former guest? Do you remember what he would do when he went to get his meat?
Yeah, he shopped at a local farm. I think he drove like probably like an hour or 2 hours.
He got the whole animal, I think, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he got to choose. I think he got to choose, and then he got the whole animal, and then they, took it apart, refrigerated it. And he had a big freezer at home.
His second freezer, I want to say he had.
Yeah,
Yeah, like the big industrial size one.
yeah, and I think that's good too, because at the end of the day, you eat the whole animal, so that's one part. Two, you have that honest discussion with yourself about what you're eating and why you're eating it, because you're seeing the actual animal pieces. It's not like, they're trying to get rid of everything now, so you don't even have bones in chicken anymore. It's like then it doesn't look like chicken, then it doesn't feel like chicken, and it's all to make the user or the consumer feel like it's easier to eat because they don't think it's an animal.
It's disgusting.
So I think that I think
what's disgusting though, David, having to separate everything out.
No, it's disgusting seeing like everything just, I saw a video of how they do chicken nuggets. Was it on? Yeah, it's like it just was like pink stuff.
Oh god,
That's not real chicken. Yeah,
pink stuff. Yeah, that's the other thing too. Like a lot of stuff, like even ground beef, right? For example, they're using so many different parts of the animal, like it's unidentifiable. And then, obviously multiple animals make up 1 pound of ground beef. You might have 21 freaking different cows. And then it goes back to them bleach, or what is it? They were spraying ammonia on meats to prevent the bacteria from growing.
E. coli, yeah.
Yeah, right. E. coli poisoning, E. coli.
Which is crazy to think that these meat plants, I guess, weren't reporting it, right? Essentially, and that's what was happening. That's bananas.
Well, they don't have to.
They don't. Well, I think it said after a certain point they had to, right? Or the USF, I can't think what federation was, said after they had failed to report a number of cases, they were allowed to shut them down.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I think I remember that vaguely.
What about? Do you guys remember? This was about 5-6 years ago when E. coli sprung up again, and it was, I want to say Chipotle had issues with that. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had to recall all the meats and stuff. Or
was it not in the lettuce too? I think
it was the lettuce.
Yeah, that's what I remember. And
it was like iceberg lettuce, I think. Some shit.
And everyone was like, "You ate a Chipotle? Oh no, don't eat Chipotle." I remember because Chipotle had serious links with being some of the leading cases, I want to say. I mean, that's just what I remember. And I for a long time I didn't eat a Chipotle.
Chipotle is life.
Yeah, Chipotle is good.
They say also, what do they say? Like 80. At one point, it was like a whole bunch of different manufacturers made the meats that were used and distributed in America. But now it's like only up to 3. It's like 3 major corporations control 80%. Excuse me.
Another time, the guy said he had 70% of the meats out of the market from him, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. 70% of, I think it was beef. All beef products nationwide were from what was that factory?
Well, he had several, factory. Right? He said he had
Smithfield.
I can't remember, but he said he had Kansas. He said in one LA, Ohio. He had them all over the map. And Pennsylvania.
Once one person owns all that shit, or one company owns the majority, they could do whatever the fuck they want.
Exactly. And then they break it down to a science, like that whole chicken farm with no light, right? Because they didn't want the sunlight, because the sunlight, I don't know, affected how the chickens reacted.
Is that what it was?
I think it was to help grow more chickens. I mean, obviously that's the freaking point, right? Grow bigger and more chickens. The specifics, they didn't want to get into the specifics. They just said that this was part of their new technology. The new technology was to raise the chicken, have the chicken be hatched and raised with no sunlight at all, in order to promote whatever it is, like bigger or fatter chickens. But then obviously like pumping them up with hormones to make it so they can't walk.
So fat, right? They showed the average of like 56 years how the average one was kind of skinnier. Yeah, now
their internal organs couldn't keep up with the size of their the chicken breast specifically, and also the thighs.
Crazy.
Yeah. And that sucks. also at the same time, like, people will make arguments all, one way or the other. But I think that it's important to see some of that stuff, like from an education standpoint, when you're young and impressionable, so that way you can make changes, right? Because people they get set in their ways, and if they don't see it until they're in their 60s, 70s, the likelihood of people making a change is going to be a lot lower than when you're in your teens. And you might make those small adjustments to your diet or like what you consume growing up, and that might have a bigger impact on the family and the future overall. Because that if that stuff doesn't make money, then they're not going to do it. The only reason why they're doing it is because it's making a boatload of money, but only for a select group.
Right. And then the other thing, go along with education, I think it's important to make a note that if we don't want, if you're advocating for more variety, then you should help educate with that too. At school, when you talked about having finance classes, and we had cooking, and it was baking also, but if you're trying to advocate for less or meat substitutes, like have the education at school too. I spoke about with the Game Changers that like culturally I grew up eating meat every single meal, and like we don't know any different. And it's not wrong, it's just we don't know differently. It's the more of an up and coming thing. So have that as an educational part of school as well. Like these are alternatives, or these are possible scenarios you can modify to not just have meat or whatever it is, like to me almond milk tastes better than regular milk, whatever it is. So I think that's also an important thing.
And the price of it too, because remember, I kind of made a joke. I was making fun of the dude who was like, look at the broccoli, it's too expensive, man. And he was right. Like he was like sitting there in the grocery store, and they were trying to figure out how much they could buy with the amount of money they had. And it was like, you could either just get like one head of broccoli, or you can get like a cheeseburger with fries and a shake or something like that. Cheeseburger, fries, and some, a drink. And it's like, how long is that broccoli going to last in your stomach? How long are you going to feel full for? And for most people, that's what matters, right? Like, are you hungry? How do you get rid of that hunger? And how much does it cost you? And they play that short-term game for a very long time, and eventually it leads to things like hypertension, diabetes, strokes, and other cardiovascular diseases. And I'm sure a whole bunch of other things that we haven't put the science together yet for, because it's not financially doesn't feasible. Make enough money.
Yeah,
it doesn't make enough money to study that stuff, but I'm sure we're doing a lot more harm than good.
But all in all, I think it's very I think the movie is very educational. The documentary, should I say. I was really surprised. Maybe I'm very naive in saying this. I was surprised how we depended so much on corn as well. That was a real eye opener for me. How corn, you can make everything from corn, or as one of the main bases. Call me naive, but I was like, oh wow.
That, and the U.S. is fucking up the avocado industry as well. There's another documentary. I forget what I saw or where I saw it, but they were talking about
like Mexico.
Yeah, it was talking about Mexico as well, because the U.S. there's some crazy statistic where the United States consumes 80% or like 95% of the avocados grown in Mexico. Like that leaves like less than 5% or whatever, like a very small percentage up to the population. And so much now that it's actually funding the drug industry and the cartels. So eating avocados, the US eating avocados, or as much of avocados as we are eating, is actually impacting them negatively.
That's insane.
I mean, them being like regular people.
You gotta have your avocado toast, And
it costs a lot of money, and it costs a lot of stuff, because they threaten them to meet certain quotas, because they also get a cut too.
Yep.
So they're going to get pennies compared to what everyone else gets. Yeah.
And then also the corn, and how much corn we make compared to the other countries. We actually put the other countries out of business, because it's more expensive for them to make their own corn, because we've made this system where we can just grow more corn than pretty much anywhere else in the I think our hemisphere. I think, because we've got it down to a science, which makes it a lot harder for other places to sustain their own like productions and agriculture, because if it's cheaper to buy it, then why even grow it? And then it also impacts like when we have shortages, it also impacts all these other countries as well that we distribute to.
So, yeah, it's majority in Mexico. I was trying to find out where the majority of them come from, but
Yeah, they come from. There's also like one city in Mexico that it comes from mostly.
but
Yeah.
the rest of the world, is it just
Yeah.
it's pretty predominantly in Mexico? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
hard. I mean, especially if you said like the outlying effect is that it's funding the like you said, the drug cartel or the cartels workings. That's tied in there. That's not a good thing either. But
Yeah, it's tied in there because
90%. That's crazy.
they what they do is, or at least in this documentary that I saw, I'm forgetting the name of it, but you could just look it up. Just look up avocados, and there's a whole bunch of stuff on it. But apparently, they have to meet quotas, and when their quotas aren't met, then you get like that random person just shows up, similar to the Monsanto when they just pull up in black glasses. You don't see an ID, you don't see a badge or anything. They're just like, we need you to increase production in this, and the third, and or they say like, we need you to give us half the money that you made during this whatever, because they see through whatever technology or whatever they're doing, they see or they infer or estimate how much you're going to make with the allotted land that you have and how much you're going to produce, and then they want half. People always just want some of that, and if you don't give it to them, then they'll, in the movie that I saw, they kidnapped the farmer. They kidnapped, I think, him and somebody else, and they sent notes to his family like, you need to give us this, down, and the third. And then they took him to an unknown location and they just dropped him off. This is, things like that. It's pretty wild. Over corn and avocados. Who would have thought, right?
Yeah, that was eye-opening to me. But I mean, there's also reports saying that they grow avocados in parts of Florida and parts of Hawaii. I mean, I don't know what the percentage is, but or they were first planted in Florida and California in 1833, in California, respectively, 1856.
Yeah.
Back in the day. Yeah, it's funny, I never, back in the UK, you had avocados, but it was never really a staple of my diet. And now I feel I have them so often. And as you said, David, avocado toast, like, you can't beat that. It's absolutely banging. Like, if you ever go to the airport and there's nothing else, you hate avocados. Oh, that's right, I forget you have avocados. Yeah. I forgot about that. What was the thing didn't you get, David, didn't we get him something avocado looking or flavor or something and then realize you didn't like them?
No, it was on the podcast with Antoine, and we had made mention to avocados, and then you said, but do you like guacamole? And I was like, dude, I know avocados are in guacamole.
I said that?
Yeah. Everybody started laughing.
Like, you dumbass.
Like, you trying to ask me like a trick question, like
oh,
like,
no,
because sometimes
like, no, because you know how sometimes people say, oh, I don't like cheese, I don't like tomatoes, and then you say to them, yeah, but you love pizza. Tomato.
And then they just like like,
oh, but it's not the same.
Cheese. It's made of cheese.
It's the same.
I mean, it's not the same.
I know, but I mean, I just it's just funny. Anyway, but I completely forgot I said that. But do you guys have any other closing thoughts on this, or
watch the movie? See what you like, what you don't like. Take what you will, but just know that money rules the food production.
Cash is king. Cash rules everything around me. Yeah, I think, same. I say cheers to what David said. Understand where the stuff is coming from and try to make changes. I think another thing that I didn't touch on, but I did want to mention, is it's difficult, and I don't think it's sustainable. Like, I don't think any mode in the grand scheme of things is sustainable, right? Like, not everybody can be hunters and hunt their own food. I don't think everybody could be vegan. I don't think everybody can be vegetarian, or everybody can be pescatarian, because I don't think it's sustainable, right? I think besides what we got going on with like some of these things, it's like overpopulation. There's just too many people and too many people trying to do the same thing. And then you have these problems, right? Like there's just so much. So just being mindful of knowing where it comes from and then trying to diversify if you can, then I think that's probably for the better. Like you said, Jacques, to your point, like your dad goes hunting and he has to like skin the animal, take out the organs, separate that stuff, cook it, do whatever he's got to do. If more people did something like that, then they can make their own decision as to what they like, or if they like it at all. And if they don't like it, then what are some of the other options that they can have? But I think a lot of that should be probably an education system somewhere, right? Like if you want to do this, then understand that this is what comes as a consequence. You might not be doing it yourself, but somebody's killing that chicken, somebody's killing that cow, somebody's killing whatever.
Someone's doing the dirty work for you. Yeah.
Somebody is, and oftentimes it's an immigrant and or somebody of low income. So know that.
No, for real. Yeah, there's a whole set of stuff to that back world, but we won't dig into it too far, will we now, team?
We're only scratching the surface.
We're always scratching the damn surface. Clean that surface too. No, but all right. Yeah, that was a good analysis of that episode, and we should wrap it up. Any closing thoughts on the episode?
No, I think we just gave our closing thoughts.
Yeah,
we didn't even scratch the surface, but we closed up. These savages. All right, well, team, thank you for joining us, and thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and follow our pages, whether it be Instagram, YouTube, or Spotify. And don't forget the trainer feed, all one word, for your 15% off at Rome. Guys, enjoy the rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Deuces.
Peace.